Hello and welcome to knee training here in Becoming Unbreakable. My name is Kate. I am your coach and guide on this journey, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. This knee training is part of a larger series we're doing right now in Becoming Unbreakable on aging well. We're spending 3 months focusing on the very specific things you should be doing to build and maintain your health as you age and to build and maintain your fitness as you age. My goal is to have all of you turn into 40, 50, 60, 70, and even 80-year-olds who are capable of weightlifting without pain, who can go on 100-mile bike rides if that's what you're into, who can play with the kids and the grandkids, and who are not laid up with lots of chronic conditions. That's my goal, and if that's your goal too, be sure to check out the rest of the stuff that we're learning here in the Aging Well series. Let's get to knee training. The very first thing you have to understand when it comes to knees, or really any part of your body, is that nothing works in isolation. Not one thing. Which means any solution that focuses on one singular thing is not a complete solution. I'm going to talk with you today about the different solutions that go into knee training. And if you'd like to learn more about this holistic approach I take and how I see bodies as an ecosystem, not as an isolated this and that and the other thing, read my book, Becoming Unbreakable. You can find it on Amazon and in my shop online. Now, when it comes to knees, as I was saying, you can't isolate them. The only time you can isolate a knee is when the trauma that happens to a knee had absolutely nothing to do with you, meaning you get in a car wreck and your knee gets mangled. That had absolutely nothing to do with how fit your hips were or how strong your feet were or what your inflammation level was in your body. So in those moments when you have a traumatic acute issue that occurs, that can be completely isolated from you. You had nothing to do with that, but the healing process will absolutely be integrated. To only work on just the knee as you're recovering a knee injury is to miss the forest from the trees. So since your body works as an ecosystem, let's talk about some of the things you might be doing or not doing that are influencing what's going on at your knees. We're going to start with habits and practices, then we're going to move into structures about how your body is positioned that could be influencing knee pain, because that will parlay us really nicely into the exercises we're going to do today. All right, so let's go through those things you might be doing or not doing. Number 1, increasing volume too quickly. I see this a lot with people when it comes to cardio, but I also see this with exercise like weight training as well. What a person will do is think, oh, I'm sedentary. Now I'm ready to begin exercise. I'm mentally ready for this. Let's go. And they go from doing absolutely nothing to doing a cardio workout that has them running within a month's time frame. That is not a good idea. The other thing I'll see is people go, yeah, I've done a little bit of weightlifting. I'm going to get into this weight training workout where we're doing a crazy amount of lunges and tons of squats and a million step-ups and sprinting every week. Also not a good idea, because what we want to have happen with our workouts is a slow, progressive buildup over time. That's true for our muscles, and it's even more true for our tendons. We need our body to slowly adapt to an increase in volume over time. And I hate to break it to you, but your ego is not going to like how slow the buildup needs to be for your tissues to actually respond favorably. So the sooner you can get over any ego you might have around that, the sooner you're going to make more long-standing progress for, in this case, your knees, but also all of your joints and all of your tendons. Number 2 is too much intensity too quickly. And boy, oh boy, do we see this one, especially at the beginning of the year. People get motivated, they're excited, they're like, this is the year, I'm going to start doing better for myself, I'm going to take care of my body. And unfortunately, that quickly turns into, I need to do a really intense workout in order to take care of my body. And that could not be further from the truth. What you need to truly take care of your body is, again, to slowly build up the intensity over time. Okay, on to number 3, inflammation. And I don't mean the good kind of inflammation, like after a workout, your body's a little inflamed, the healing response comes in, helps heal up all the tissues, and that's how you get strong. No, I'm talking about chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. And there's 3 big ways we're experiencing this. Number 1 is stressful lifestyle. It's why I teach you so much in Becoming Unbreakable about breathing and breathing activities to reset the autonomic nervous system to a state of balance. Because if you're stuck in the fight or flight response, you literally, and I literally mean literally, will not heal your tissues as well. Healing only happens in the rest and digest response. You have to get back to that in order to reduce inflammation. Number 2 is diet, and this is a big one. We have a lot of opportunities to eat food that is not really food these days. And look, I'm not against, I saw that they make gluten-free Oreos now, and I was like, dang, that looks good. But is that a health food? No, absolutely not. And if I ate a lot of Oreos, I would likely see the inflammation increase in my body. We've seen through study after study that processed foods, foods high in sugar, foods high in seed oils like canola and cottonseed oil, you're going to find those in a lot of snack goods, and alcohol. These are our big ones that we consume most commonly as adults that are increasing our inflammatory load. So if that's you, work on mitigating where you can, reduce what you can, eliminate things that aren't serving you anymore, find whole healthy options as alternatives, and see if you can reduce your inflammation through your diet. And number 3 is medications. A lot of people are on medications these days. And while I would love for all of us to be able to get off all medications for chronic conditions, for some people that's just not an option. And we need to acknowledge that if that's not an option for you, no worries. All we have to do is make sure that we understand that that is going to be contributing to inflammation in our body. We'll have to detoxify better, so work on liver health, liver detoxification pathways, and then just address the rest of your lifestyle. Like I always say, you may not be able to control this, but then that means you can control extra things over here. And if you can't control this, then you can control other things over here. You're always in control of what you're doing, even if you can't change this one thing, like a medication. Number 4 is footwear. And I talk about footwear as well in Becoming Unbreakable, but here's a little breakdown. A shoe is not for your foot as much as it's for your brain. I'll say that again. A shoe is not for your foot as much as it's for your brain. Yes, a foot needs to be able to articulate as it walks through or runs or even stands. It needs to be able to articulate the bones of the foot. But those are going to be able to articulate effectively based off what the brain is getting in terms of information. Now, I changed my viewpoint quite a bit over the last several years about footwear because I originally thought, oh yeah, barefoot shoes, they make total sense. Barefoot footwear, make your foot be more natural. Unfortunately, that's only true if we're walking on natural surfaces where the ground is meeting the foot in all of its contours, like the arch, the heel, and under the toes. Most of us are in buildings all the time where the ground is flat and our foot is on this flat ground having to look for where the contours are going to be met. So ideally, barefoot footwear is great provided you're walking on natural surfaces like the grass, sand, dirt, something like that. If you're not walking on those surfaces, you'll want to be in a good gym shoe that can help you to meet the arches and the foot and the toe where it needs to be met so that the brain can get the right information. I won't go too much deeper into it than that. I talk about it a lot more in the book, but I am going to post a worksheet on the bulletin board this month that gives you an outline of how to choose a good shoe based on this context. Okay, now let's get into number 5 and the real meat of today's lesson, and that's the structures of the knee, so the femur, the patella, the tibia, and what's happening with those that can contribute to inner and outer knee pain, and then those exercises we need to get into. All right, so when we talk about structure, let's picture this first. Imagine this is your femur or your thigh bone. Your knee joint will be right here. Below that, we're going to have your tibia or your lower leg bone. Each of these bones needs to be able to rotate in order for you to function. They have to rotate. If they don't, compensations start to arise. And like I always say, compensations are helpful until they're not. And when they start hurting, they're no longer helpful. And we need to do something about that. So when it comes to inner knee pain, most commonly what we will see is, here's the knee joint, we'll see that the femur, the thigh bone, is rotated internally. We'll see that the tibia, the lower leg bone, is rotated externally. And that knee will start to collapse inward or create a valgus knee. And we'll get a lot of pain on this inner edge of this knee. When we get pain on the outer edge of the knee, or maybe kind of the upper outer edge or lower outer edge, what we will often see is the femur has externally rotated, the tibia has also externally rotated, and we start to get pain around this outer edge. So we need to do something to allow those bones to rotate more into a state of neutrality where they can rotate inward if they want to and need to, and they can rotate outward if they want to and need to. We never want any part of our body to be stuck in one position so that it can't go the other way or more of the direction it's supposed to go. So in today's 7 exercises I'm going to give you, we're going to be getting into some of these things that will help you address internal and external rotation of the femur up top and the tibia down below. In addition, we're going to be getting into some exercises that help you with load management and building up endurance around the knee joint. So let's get into it. So the first thing I like to look at, especially for people who've had knee issues before, is does their kneecap or their patella even move? If you've been put on bed rest or you were put in a cast and you weren't given rehab, which is quite common for people in the past who've had knee issues maybe 20, 30 years ago, we'll often see that there's a lack of range of motion with the patella itself. And so where the patella should be able to glide, it's now fixed and kind of stuck in place. So take your fingers and start to push on the kneecap from all angles, just gently. You want to be exploring how much relative motion it's got. If you have any sticky spots where it doesn't really glide very much, you can simply start this as the exercise. Start pushing on it regularly. You can see mine goes quite a bit to the left and to the right. We can push it down. We can push it back up. Even on the angles, it's moving. That's what we want to be able to see with a kneecap. So you can just do simple massage around the kneecap, pushing it gently one direction and the other, never pushing into pain. And that can help you start to restore any lost patellar motion. With this exercise, we're going to be focusing on internal rotation of the tibia, which remember, both types of knee pain need to improve their tibial internal rotation. So you can either sit on the floor or sit in a chair. This exercise is exactly the same if you sit in a chair, and so just follow along with what I'm showing you here. Sit in any way that's comfortable with you and bend the knee you're going to work up towards you. Have the toes upward and the heel on the ground. Hold onto your upper thigh so that it is not going to move. We don't want it to go in or out. We want it to stay right where it started the entire time. Then we're going to take our tibia and we're going to find the muscles, make the brain-body connection to say what muscle rotates this inward. So here's how it looks. You can see that this muscle right here, the anterior tibialis, you can see that it's turning. It's turning because this shin bone is rotating, and if you watch that shin bone, you'll see that it goes almost like windshield wipers, over one way and back. So you need to find the muscles that can do that. Make sure it's not with your toes that you're doing all of the motion. The toes are moving because the tibia is moving, okay? If you notice that as you're doing it, your leg's going like this, you're not isolating it enough. That's why you want to really hold on, and if you need to hold even tighter, oh, let me not screw up my microphone there. If you need to hold it even tighter, you can do that and isolate the motion even more to your tibia. Do it on one side, then switch. This exercise is a wall-facing hip hinge with a pillow squeeze, and it's especially great for people whose femurs are externally rotated and need to get back to a little more internal rotation. So here's how we do this. We're going to take a pillow or a small ball or something that can go up between our legs. We want to be able to have something so appropriately sized that it's not ballooning our legs out, nor is it so small that we have to cave our knees in to be able to meet the pillow or the ball or whatever's between our legs. So you might have to fold the pillow up if that's what you need. For me, this looks great. And you do want it up high, at the highest point of your femur before your pelvis starts. Now we want to stand and face the wall and put our hands on the wall and walk back so that we're at a slight angle leaning in towards the wall. Our heels will still be on the ground. From there, we want to bend our knees to about 20 degrees. And we're going to exhale and draw our rib cage back. Just allow that to relax. That was Scout getting comfortable. From there, what we want to do is start to walk our hands down the wall, hinging at the hips as we do so, and stop when we can feel that to go any further is not true motion at the hips, that it's going to start to be at the spine, and we're going to be getting this into the mix. So it'll be a little bit different for everybody. One thing I feel quite a bit when I'm doing this is I can tell the point where I'm starting to get a stretch in the back of the hips and the butt and a little bit in the hamstrings. That tells me I'm in the right spot. From there, we're going to just keep our weight centered through our heels and our centers of our feet. Squeeze what the object, whatever it is, between your knees. And then inhale and exhale slowly for 5. So inhale. And nice long slow exhale for 5. Keep giving a squeeze to the pillow. Weight is centered through the centers of the feet and the heels, and we're pushing the wall away. And you're going to get a nice stretch through the back of the butt and the pelvis, and even through the hamstrings. All right, this next exercise is called a Poliquin step, and I just love this one. It is ideal for anyone who wants to keep their knees resilient. It's going to help you with building up your ability to tolerate load, intensity, greater range of motion, eccentric lengthening, just like the knees over toes squat, and improving range of motion of the ankle and the knee. It's also a great quadricep strengthener as well. So this is just a winner of an exercise. What you're gonna need is a step. Now, most people don't have little steps like this in their house. So what you can use, which works phenomenally, is a stair step or a step off to your patio. That would work really great too. What we want is a difference of between like 6 and 8 inches to start for the height between the step and the ground or whatever is below it. So in this case, I've got this little step and I've got some books. So if I were to have a little step like this, or maybe you have a stair step, and you do the exercise I'm about to show you, and you're like, I need a little bit more control, less range of motion, you can just put little books down, and that will help you have a shorter distance that you have to travel. You'll see how it works when I show you the exercise in a second. If you have none of these things and you have no stairs, you can use a plyometric or a step-up box, but those are usually 18 to 36 inches tall. What that means is you're gonna have to bring the floor up to meet that, or just not have a floor that you're reaching towards. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So let's get this guy squared away. What we wanna do is stand on our step, and you're gonna hang one foot off the step. From there, you're gonna lower that heel towards the ground below the step and push back up through this grounded leg. Again, you want your knee of the working leg to track right in line with the ankle, so we don't want it caving in, we don't want it going out. We want to control the lower, tap the heel, and come right back up. Now, if you're like, yeah, that's too far, Kate, can't do that. Even a stair step is too far. Just put some books on the step below you, and then lower to that, and raise back up. Notice the knee is going over the toe again, and you're going to be feeling a lot of work all up through here. Similarly, if you're on a plyo box and you're like, there's no way I'm stepping all the way to the bottom, you're correct. There's no way you're going to do that, and you should not try to do that. So let's assume I'm on a plyo box that's 36 inches tall. Hold on to a wall or a railing nearby and just lower to what feels like 6 inches without having your foot touch anything on the bottom. Okay, so that's how you do that if you have a high plyo box. For some of you, you're going to have ankle range of motion limitation that is so significant that even doing that is too much. In which case, I want you to take a little dish towel and put it under your heel to elevate the heel ever so slightly, so that with your heel elevated, your range of motion is slightly better with your ankle, and you'll be able to lower and raise. And if you're using a slight elevation of the heel right here, in time, you'll be able to take that away. You'll be able to go lower, and eventually your ankle won't be a problem at all for this exercise or for anything else. Make sure you do both sides, and then let's get to our last exercise. Let's get on to an exercise for our knees that will address both the too much load too quickly and too much volume too quickly situations. They will also help with ankle range of motion and knee range of motion, strengthening the range of motion as you increase it. And as a super awesome bonus, this will help to strengthen the knee in what's called the eccentric position, or the lengthening position of all the musculature that's around that. This is why people who lack the strength in eccentric contraction, why going up and down stairs tends to hurt more, and why going up and down hills tends to hurt more. So here's how we do the knees over toes lunge to address all of those things. First, there's a few stages here. You start with the easiest stage. If you do well at that and you have no discomfort in your knee and you're able to do it with good technique, you can go on to the next things I'm going to show here. So the first setup for the knees over toes lunge is to take a stagger stance. Now, instead of a traditional lunge or split squat where we go up and down like that, we're going to be going forward with our body weight. So either take hands on hips, or if you're ready to add a little weight, you can hold dumbbells in both hands. And you're going to take your body weight forward, keeping your front foot flat on the floor, and taking your knee as far over your toe as you can, and pushing all the way back up. When you push back up, you want to have your knee track in line with your ankle and your hip. That should go without saying that you also want your knee to track in line with your ankle and your hip as you're going forward. So I don't want to, pardon me, Scout, I don't want to go forward and have my knee go this way, nor do I want to have it go this way. I want it to aim kneecap directly over first and second toes as I'm going forward and back. So let's say you're doing that and you're like, wow, I'm looking great. Everything's awesome. I've hit kind of the end point of my ankle range of motion. Any further and I can tell my heel's going to want to come up. I'm going pretty far over my toe. What do I do next? The next thing to do is to take it wider so that you can go deeper. So it'll look like this. Big stance, weights or hands on hips, whatever you'd like. As far forward as you can get and all the way back up. So it's the exact same thing, just deeper. Now, some of you might be coming from a place where you're like, hold up, that first one you showed, that is not doable for me. Here's what you will want to do. You will want to take a step or a box or a chair or something and put it in front of you. Now, if you're really just getting started, maybe after a knee surgery and you've been cleared for exercise, a kitchen chair might work ideally because it's really high. The higher it is, the easier it will get on your knee. The lower it is, the harder it gets. So if you were on that first one and you're like, no, knee didn't love that, take your foot up a little bit higher and start with just really small ranges of motion, barely having the knee go past the toe. Once you got that and you're like, okay, my knee's starting to like that, you can go a little bit further. Once you can hit your full range of motion, where you go as far as you can before the ankle is about to lose the heel contact with the ground, then you might be ready to put yourself onto the floor to do these exercises. Now our final exercise, I'm going to give you a demonstration thanks to the Delightful Knees Over Toes guy from Instagram and YouTube because I was unable to film a video outside this morning because the winds were so high you couldn't hear a darn thing I was saying. But our final exercise that is phenomenal for our knee function, health, and resilience is walking backwards. And that could be walking backwards up a low grade in your neighborhood, like a sidewalk that goes like this. It could be walking backwards uphill on a treadmill, or it could be walking backwards up a great big green slope that's in the park near your house. Walking backwards has myriad benefits for your knees, not the least of which is it helps to bring circulation and blood flow to the knee, but also it's helping you with creating knee motion that you don't get a lot of in your daily life. And we've seen time and again now that people who have knee issues are getting remarkable results with walking backwards. I know, sounds crazy. Let me show you what it looks like. No, hold on. I said walking backwards uphill, not falling face first downhill. Hold on. Here's Knees Over Toes guy showing us how to do it on an inclined treadmill. You're just going to have your hips sitting back into the treadmill itself, hands holding onto the handles, and use your legs to push that tread to move yourself, quote unquote, uphill. Of course, if you have a real hill, you can do this there as well.